Okay, hi everybody. My name is Gene Kogan, and this is a quick introduction to the Abraham Project. So, yeah, just a really quick note about myself. This might explain some of what you're about to read, but when I was a kid, I was really into video games, and I used to play this NHL game, like NHL hockey on the Super Nintendo, and one of the things I enjoyed to do was making the AIs sort of play against each other and kind of running these simulation tournaments. And I don't know if anybody else did that, but it kind of preceded a long interest I had in AIs interacting and behaving and sort of looking and talking and feeling kind of like life forms of a certain sort. And so that was kind of an interest of mine as a kid. And this kind of preceded my interest in AI generated art, so to speak, which is something I've been pursuing for the last couple of years very actively and really kind of maybe 10 years, kind of going back to my fascination with AI. And I'm an artist and a programmer, and I've been kind of working on trying to find the neural aesthetics, so to speak, of the aesthetics of neural networks, and trying to find aspect properties of them that appeal to me from a creative sense. This is a style GAN trained on WikiArt. I'm sure lots of you have seen this kind of stuff out there. If you're tracking the AI world, there's a lot of people using general adversarial networks, GANs, and so on to make interesting kinds of visual art. And I've been taking part in this movement. This goes back to 2015 when deep learning first began to be applied to making sort of generative art, so to speak. This is the first implementation of a GAN, which was designed to be uh, used to produce images. Radford Metz-Schintele. Shortly after that, I made a project called A Book from the Sky, which basically applied DCGAN to making Chinese handwriting using a data set of handwritten characters that I found online in this place. And d- basically just experimenting with this newfound capacity to generate images that looked like they came from some actual data set. And interesting thing about this project was that I learned a lot about Chinese handwriting. One of the things about them, which is kind of cool, is that Chinese characters have these root radicals, they're called, and they were kind of preserved in some of these interpolations, which I found to be kind of interesting. I've been using techniques like deep dream and neural style transfer to make interesting, sort of graphics and animations like this for the last couple of years. This is actually a perfect loop. So both of these are look like they're just infinitely expanding outward, but they're actually complete loops. And this is also a short loop synthesizing Hokusai's Great Wave of Kanagawa texture. This is a technique based on neural style transfer. It's basically neural style transfer without content, and applied also here to Google Maps, which is one of my favorite use cases. Um, and here's the same looping technique being applied to Deep Dream videos. So Deep Dream was this technique that kind of makes neural networks hallucinate, so to speak, and yeah, makes interesting animations like this. I've been participating in the latest craze in the AI art world of generating images from text. So this is a banana performing stand-up comedy, and this is basically based on a technique which makes use of two machine learning models, one called CLIP, which was released by OpenAI earlier this year, and one called VQGAN, which is a repository online made by a group, and some code by the great Advent Noun, who's been really leading the charge in kind of getting people to understand how to make interesting images from text, which is one of the sort of latest frontiers of this world, and making animations like this, a drawing in the style of MC Escher. Okay, so let me go to the artificial artist concept. So Well, going back to the 1980s, this guy right here, Harold Cohen, one of the first people to propose a project where he would use sort of AI, expert-based AI at the time, to encode a whole bunch of rules, stochastic rules, into a drawing robot that he had been building called Aaron. And this was one of the first attempts kind of, I think, flirt with the idea of personhood or agency in the creation of an AI, a creative AI. And so this is kind of an inspiring project to me, along with things like artificial life. So in during the history of AI, lots of people uh, basically experimented with computational agents mimicking life, biological agents, and this also preceded some of what I'm going to talk about in my project. Another project that is an influence on this is Electric Sheep, which is a project by Scott Draves to make a sort of group screensaver, something like that, using a huge network of computational power volunteer nodes. And so this is also something quite of interest to me, as is simulation, things like that. So there have been lots of projects to make these AI artists, but the problems I think in all of them is that the artist lacks agency. So the artist is kind of running a program that was written by a human programmer, and in that sense functions a little bit more like a tool for the artist. And so the question I ask is, what if the artist, learned the program using machine learning from a data set that was way well beyond the writer of the software? And lo and behold, this idea has been around in the crypto space for a little while, in the form of the Art DAO by these two fellows, Trent McConaughey and Simon De La Rivera. Lots of people have commented on it since then as well. And the idea here was using the blockchain to create an art program that lived on chain and kind of worked on its own, paid for computation from its proceeds, and made interesting on-chain generative art. And there have been lots of projects like this. So lots of sort of NFT projects have come around to try to kind of, well, lots of them have been on chain, but have lacked maybe some of the complexity that I'm kind of going for. Okay, so Abraham is this project that I proposed already going back 2 years ago, started thinking about it even 4 years ago, to create this autonomous artificial artist construct. And the idea of the autonomous artificial artist is to create an artist who makes unique and original art. This is an agent that lives on the blockchain that creates unique and original digital art. And it's an interesting. My motivations are sort of multifaceted. I'm interested in creating artificial life, so to speak. I'm interested in exploring the notion of collective intelligence, what you get when you combine with machine learning with crowdsourced data and generativity, and to advance more general causes across decentralization. There's also a security and privacy component to this as well, and kind of experimenting with different kinds of economic models. It's a crypto art project, so there's an economic model that it tries to get people to kind of coordinate together to make to get interesting outcomes from this. And it's a multifaceted project. It's kind of combining a whole bunch of things that I love from computer art and AI, of course, but also there's this kind of philosophical aspect to it. What is an agent? What is a creative AI, and so on, and also causes in decentralization as well. The artist idea, it has kind of these components of autonomy, originality, uniqueness, and my idea is to kind of use crowdsourced, crowdsourced kind of game economics to get people to coordinate together, to cooperate, to group curate a generative model, an AI generative model. And my pitch is that you get autonomy from this idea. So this is kind of like harking on this idea that there's intelligence in groups, so collective intelligence of bees and termites and other kinds of superorganisms, but applied to kind of human intelligence. And there's a technical component to this, which is that I propose to try to make this work as as a crowdsourced generative model, which uses multi-party computation. Unfortunately, I don't have so much time to talk about the details, but basically to try to decentralize the process of machine learning, which is an ongoing research, and to model the collective imagination. This is probably my biggest kind of interest in this. So while I still have time, let's also really quickly take a look at the website abraham.ai, and you can see here that basically if you go to Abraham's creations, you see lots of people have been using it, making all sorts of sort of weird text-to-image based artworks, Dreaming of Babylon, Mortal Kombat, the Matrix Code, and so on. You can sort it by some of the most popular ones. Yeah, undersea creatures wearing dresses. So yeah, that's all. I think I've run out of time. So thank you very much, and I'll talk to you all soon. You can find me online. Gene Kogan ML4A is also another project of mine, Abraham.ai. Okay, thanks.